All right, welcome back to the Contrarians, everybody. We have another special episode of Showcase, which is our new series that we started just to get to know some of the folks that join our panels for our Patreon discussions and our regular Contrarians episodes. So today's going to be no different. We're actually going to get to know Grant a little bit better. So welcome, Grant. How are you doing?
Hey, good, Marco. Nice to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for showing up. And
Of course.
yeah, Grant is the host of Grant's Rock Warehouse, who's also on YouTube. So go check out Grant's Rock Warehouse. And today we're going to get to know Grant a little bit better. So, what made you decide to start your own show, Grant's
Well,
Rock Warehouse?
Marco, it all comes back to you because when I joined the whole Contrarians thing, when you started doing panel discussions, is when I started. That's when I joined on Patreon. So it all timed out. Me, Todd Evans, we all joined like at the same time. And you know how you always let people, the Patreons, submit topics. Well, I would submit topics. Of course, you can't get all the topics on every month. And I had a lot more topics I wanted to talk about than I could on the Contrarians. So that's why I started this. I figured, what the hell? The internet's a big place. There's plenty of room for everybody to do anything. So that's why I did it, because I just couldn't get all my topics on. I had a lot more I wanted to talk about.
Well, what
So
got you so interested in music to begin with, like in your life?
I would say hearing the Beatles for the first time when I was 10, because ever since then, I've just been absolutely, totally music crazy ever since. So that's what started the whole thing. And it's my dad used to say, "Oh, Grant, you'll get out of that. You'll grow out of that." But I never did. Still just as into it now as I was when I was a kid. So,
Were you collecting when you were a kid?
well, I didn't have, I wouldn't say I was really collecting, because when you're a kid, you don't all have that much money. So I would just get what I could buy. Whatever I liked, I could buy. And I wouldn't say I was really collecting anything. That happened a lot more later in life, I'd say. But
Do you,
I wanted to collect, let's say that, like in college and stuff. You would get stuff and you would sell off your collection because you needed money. So I've purged a lot in my life. It's just this point in my life, I don't really have to purge anymore. So it's become more of a collection. But like since the 90s, I guess I've been collecting, I think.
nice.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still have any pieces from your childhood, or is there
Mm-hmm.
anything that got away that you regret?
Well, I got like, well, was there anything that I got rid of that? Nah, not really. I've got like my Beatles stuff, like the all white, double white album that came out like 78, Sergeant Pepper picture disc, all those from that era. I've still got that stuff from when I was a kid. And I still have my original Beatle records I had when I was a kid. I still have all that stuff. But I don't know. Some of that stuff, it's not so much that I collected it. It's just like I just never got rid of it, you know. But I don't know.
Do you have like a holy grail that you want,
Mm.
or do you own it? Like, what's your holy grail piece that you either want or own?
Well, on vinyl, I'd say it would be the Monkeys, Birds, Bees, and the Monkeys on a mono pressing of it. I do have one of those. But there's other things like, and I do have the Birds, Notorious Bird Brothers on mono, which is kind of rare. That's a good one. But I'd like to get like, oh, I don't know if I'll ever see it, but Simon and Garfunkel bookends in mono. A lot of these records that came out in 68, because mono was the cutoff for mono records. They didn't make any mono records after 1968. So Notorious Bird Brothers and, bookends and Birds, Bees, and the Monkeys, those are real rare mono records.
Wow, I didn't realize
But
that.
yeah, 68 was it.
What's something that you're very contrarian on?
Well, we've done a Kiss episode. I think Kiss, The Elders, the best Kiss album ever. I would have to say that's my favorite Kiss album. And I
Wow.
like Kiss okay, but I only like that Kiss era, from I'm all about Ace Frehley, so anything post Ace Frehley, I'm not that crazy about. But yeah, I'd say the Elder. I love the Elder. I think that's their best record.
Are you a big heavy metal fan? Like, do you like Black Sabbath and stuff like
Yeah, I've
that?
got Black Sabbath, but there's certain kind of heavy metal that if you're saying heavy metal, I mean Black Sabbath I like, but a lot of it I don't. It's okay. I'm
What
not
about
that.
like thrash metal?
No, I'm not into that. I've got some Metallica stuff. I guess it's okay. It depends upon what level you're talking about. Because you're talking like Master of Puppets and all that stuff. I mean that's the you know, the best of the best. But I don't know. I do have a story. I did see Metallica open for Ozzy in 1986, and I thought Metallica was just absolutely hideous. Ozzy was much better than Metallica was back then, I thought. That's when Cliff Burton was still playing bass. I just thought it was just a bunch of noise. I don't know.
I
I don't
heard
know.
you say that on your
Mm-hmm.
show the other night.
Mm-hmm. It's true. I thought Ozzy was much better. I
Okay,
don't.
so you were an Aussie fan, so you were into some
Mm,
heavy music in the 80s.
uh, I guess. I don't know. Depends on what you think's heavy in the 80s.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, I wasn't listening to Metallica then. I mean, I saw a lot of people. I saw Dokken in the 80s and Queensryche. I saw Queensryche open for Ozzy back in 86, I think. Um, I mean, I saw a lot of great stuff. I thought Queensryche was one of the better bands from that era. I like Rat. I'm not exactly sure I consider Rat metal, but I think Rat was one of the better bands. Um, I don't know, but a lot of that metal stuff I always thought was just kind of meh. That whole when Nirvana came and wiped out the whole hair metal thing, I was like, thank God, because I just thought by that point it got so silly. I don't know.
So what was your favorite
That could be
concert?
contrary. That could be contrarian right there. Got to watch out what I say, Marco.
Yeah. What was your favorite concert?
Uh, I got to see, well, my favorite concert. I would have to say, and I've brought this up before. Well, probably would either be Foreigner Double Vision Tour when I was a kid, or I'm telling you, the one that I think I really liked was my favorite was probably that show that it was the Scorpions, April Wine, and Billy Squire. Not Billy Squire, I mean Sammy Hagar. And the ticket was $5. That would have to be my favorite show. But I saw like Todd Rundgren in Utopia and sat in the front row like in '82. That was great. A lot of those Todd Rundgren shows were great. And saw the Cheap Trick on Next Position Please tour. And, you know, there's been a lot of great shows I saw though. But as a kid, it would have to be that, or maybe Styx on the Cornerstone tour. Because, when you're a kid, everything's all shiny and new. And, when I was like 13, all of this music was just incredible. So, to go to a concert and see April Wine and the Scorpions and Sammy Hagar, holy crap. Those would have to be the best in Foreigner. Oh my. I can remember those shows like it was yesterday, you know, probably even more than, something current that I saw. But when you're a kid, a lot of it makes more sense.
What's the most current show that you've seen?
Um, uh, I think it was Alice Cooper and Dayton, I think, last spring, maybe.
Nice.
I think. Ryan and I went and we saw Al Stewart. That's even more current. Ryan Gavalier and I went and saw Al Stewart. I think that one might have been it up in Kent. But that's wrong too, because Todd Evans and I went and saw Pylon in 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 Atlanta when I was there 2 weeks ago. So
Oh
that
yeah,
is
that's
totally wrong.
yeah.
So yeah, 2 weeks ago, Pylon Reenactment Society.
Very cool. We know you're a
I
big
only
fan
go
of
to concerts with all these people that I've met through the Contrarians. You
well,
know that.
we'll meet one day. One day
We
we'll
will.
meet. We know you're a big fan of music from your show. What's
Hmm.
something we don't know about you?
Mm, something you don't know. Wow, you're going to have to make an edit point here. Um,
No edits.
See, I try not to
Growing
do
up as
any
is.
editing either. I try not to do any editing either, but I end up having to do it. Uh, shit. What you don't know about me? Okay, I'll give you something. In 2019, I was trying to figure out. I wanted to do something on YouTube, believe it or not. And at the time, I was collecting a lot of Hot Wheels, like the Red Line Hot Wheels from 69 to 74. And I damn near came this close to starting a Hot Wheels restoration channel because I
Wow.
went through a period what I was buying old cars that were just trashed, and I'd take them apart, strip them, refinish them. I had an airbrush. Well, I still have it. I haven't restored anything lately, but I could restore it to like it was like brand new. All
Wow.
these like 1968, 69 Hot Wheels, but I only wanted ones that were just trashed so I could rebuild them, put new wheels on them, new suspensions. I did do that. That
That's
was in
amazing.
2019. But I mastered it, but I kind of got bored at it. But I could actually that these cars would look brand new. But
Is
I would never restore something that, didn't need restoration,
yeah.
But
Is there
yeah, I
a
would.
Hot Wheel that's worth like a lot of money?
Yeah, there's a lot.
Or like a holy grail hot wheel?
Well, it's that VW bus Hot Wheel. I think it came out in 68. I can't remember what it was called, but because all those Hot Wheels had weird names, but it was like a Volkswagen bus that was jacked up with a sunroof. Yeah, those are worth some money.
Okay, I didn't know that. I don't know anything about Hot Wheels.
There's a whole bunch, but they need to be mint condition. If you restore them, the ones that I had, they wouldn't have been worth anything anyway because they were already like ruined.
Mhm.
Kids played with them, and I just restored them back to like they were when they were brand new. So yeah, no one knows about that other than Todd Evans. He knows about it. I told him about it.
You have to send me a picture sometime.
I could send you. I got tons of pictures of
That's
stuff that I've
amazing.
restored. I've got before and after stuff, so I can send you both.
So you've done a few interviews at this point now, right?
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit about that? What have you learned from doing interviews and who have you interviewed so far?
Well, Peter Kerr and I did Prescott Niles from the Knack. We did Vanessa Briscoe Hay from Pylon, and I just did Eric Schmitz from the band Flowerhead from the 90s. That was good. Uh, what have I learned about it?
Yeah, like what are
Uh,
some things you've learned? What are your memories of doing interviews? Anything interesting?
it's just fun to sit down and talk people to it's just fun to sit down and talk to people about music and stuff. The thing that I'm fascinated by are these people that, a lot of these bands or a lot of these individuals like have been so close to making it, but then they didn't. But Prescott Niles, I would mention, he made it. The Knack couldn't continue that momentum, but I would say out of everybody, I mean, he really was able to make it. But like Eric Schmitz, I mean, he came so close. But then Zoo Entertainment, BMG went through a downgrading situation. Scott Byron, who was the A&R rep for Zoo and BMG, was telling me the situation that in the 90s, let's think about this. In the late 80s and the 80s, the record companies were trying to promote reissues. They wanted you to buy the catalog again. Think about it. So, you might have bought Cheap Trick one on vinyl when it came out. Well, they reissued it and wanted you to buy it again. By 1995, that whole reissue business really kind of had a falling out. And BMG wasn't making as much money as they were. So they went through a layoff in 95. So they got rid of Zoo Entertainment. The only artist that was able to really survive that was Matthew Sweet because he was like the biggest thing on the label. But Flowerhead and the Pooh Sticks, Sonny Landreth, probably. There are other acts that were on Zoo just totally got dropped. So they were one of those. And I just think it's kind of fascinating to talk to these people and that have been so close, but then and what happened to them after the ban? I mean, most of these people just got regular jobs. But I don't know. I don't know how many interviews I've done so far, but I always like doing the interviews because I love to hear about people's stories, their lives. It's just fascinating to me. And I hope it's fascinating for people that, listen to it. So,
How do you prepare for your interviews? Do you write out questions beforehand, or do you
uh-huh.
just ad lib it when you're in the?
Well, I write out questions before, but a lot of it's just, I just want to see how it flows and I'll just ad lib pretty much.
Nice.
But yeah, I've got questions already ready to go depending on the person, because you have to do some research. Now, Flowerhead, there's not hardly any information out there, and the whole goal of my channel is to look at these artists that haven't really gotten any recognition. I know, yeah, I cover some stuff that everybody covers, but my goal is to cover these bands that don't get that much love anymore. So Flowerhead was great. And it was hard for me to really find any information, other than doing my interview with Scott Byron, who opened me up to him. He's the guy who turned me on to the band. Because when I had Scott on the show, I said, Scott, give me what other Zoo artists did you represent, or what other bands when you were at Zoo that you really thought had something to offer? And he mentioned Flowerhead, the Pooh Sticks, bands like that. So that's just interesting because I would never have known if I didn't ask. And I love, seeing listening to these bands and checking out these bands that just kind of fell by the wayside. I'm just fascinated by it. There's only so much room in the music industry for these bands. And that's the whole problem now. You've got YouTube. There's no uh major labels anymore. How does anybody really get to find out about anybody unless you're really lucky,
Mhm.
because the major labels could promote, they put money behind people. I don't know. That whole industry model's gone. I don't know how new bands do it now.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you
Yeah.
into Spotify and digital media?
Nah, well, I've got a Spotify account, but I just listen to like Joe Rogan on it. I don't know. I'm anti. I don't know. I like physical media. We've talked about that before. I'm not a streamer at all. Only if I'd have to, you know. I'm old school. I'm old school.
Oh, I love it. I love Spotify. New King Gizzard album comes out. Oh, it's out today, and then I pull up
Mm,
my phone and go, oh, here it is, and I just listen to it right there.
mm,
As
mm.
soon as it's available, I'm
Something
listening to
about
it.
me, it takes something away from it. Because when I was a kid, I just remember Utopia or the new Todd Rundgren or the new Styx album or whatever. When I was a kid, you couldn't really get the information. You would never really know unless you like read Rolling Stone or for the CD era, like Ice Magazine would give you a lot of insight to what was coming out. The internet's been all fine and dandy, but I think it's taken away from the whole.
The whole gamble. You're taking a risk
Yeah.
when you buy an artist that you haven't heard on the radio, or even one that you've heard one song of. You're kind of taking a risk
Mhm.
buying an album. On that note, are there any
But it used
bands?
to, but it used to be a lot. What I'm trying to say is, I think it used to be a lot more special because, like the new Utopia album, like I would think, oh my God, I just read there's supposed to be a Utopia album, it's supposed to be out this day, and I'm going to have to go to the store and get it. It made it an event, you know. Now, oh, it's just released on Spotify. I don't know. It's just taken away from the whole. I don't know what the word I want to use is, the mystique, the speciality of the artist. I don't know. It's just now it's just, oh, it just comes out. You know. You
Are
know what I
there
mean?
Yeah, are there any bands that you took a risk on at the
A whole bunch.
But are there any bands you took a risk on that you regretted buying an album from, that you listened to it?
Oh,
You looked at the album and you said, this looks cool. You brought it home and
well,
go,
I
oh, this
remember
is
getting
garbage.
Van Halen too.
And vice versa.
I remember getting Van Halen 2 when I was a kid, and I thought, oh, no, this is bad.
Really? Wow.
But I must have been 13 or 14 or something. I didn't think it was very good.
But your
But now I
opinion
have
on
a
Van
different
Halen's
opinion
changed.
of it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but when you're a kid, maybe, I was a Styx guy, Foreigner, stuff like that, Beatles. But I do remember that vividly, that I thought Van Halen 2 was not very good.
Wow. You ever take a chance based on the album cover and really liked a band?
Mm, mm.
Like you knew
I
nothing about a
probably
band. You
have.
literally just looked at the album cover.
Um, I'm sure there was a moment like that, but I'm trying to think. Usually I would read about a band in like Rolling Stone, and it would be like something that I was already familiar with, that they might have like been an influence, or they might have had some kind of tonal quality like that previous band that I liked. You know, uh, a lot of that happened. But man, am I trying to think of an example where I just saw the cover and went, "Well, that's definitely cool." Um, I'm sure there's been a moment, but I can't think of anything right offhand.
Who's your desert island band?
A band that I could take to the desert island.
Only their discography.
Oh, the whole Beatle discography. That I could be happy with just that.
Okay, right on. Yeah, I know you're a big, huge Beatles
Yeah.
fan. I've
But
got
I
a
won't
few
talk the Beatles. I won't talk the Beatles because it's been talked to death.
on your show.
No, but Rand, well, I don't want to talk bad about Rand. I love Rand, but Rand wanted to do a Beatles show on his channel. But Ryan and I were involved, but there was just so much. Everything's been talked about. It's like beating a dead horse. What am I going to add to the conversation? I can't, I don't talk the Beatles because it's all been talked about. I
Mhm.
like to talk about bands that no one talks about.
Right.
But even though, like I said, Marco, I do talk about bands that people talk about, but you know,
Yeah,
well,
no, cool
that
philosophy.
sweet episode I did with Reed and Martin freaking went through the roof.
Well, you find people, viewers who want to see stuff on bands that you don't see on YouTube. So
Well, that's,
occasionally we do something like that. We just put out that HSAS episode,
yeah.
and I
Mhm.
saw a few comments that were like, "Wow, this is why like we like your channel because you guys talk about stuff that doesn't get talked about."
Yeah.
So
Well, you have to fill a niche. I mean, people can talk Judas Priest, Metallica, and Megadeth all day. That's just dime a dozen. But H talk about Hagar, Shreve, and whatever. No one's talking about that. And the sweet episode we talked about, I didn't know it was going to be huge. It's went to like 6,000 views,
yeah, that's
and
huge.
that's got more views than anything on my channel ever. You know,
Congratulations.
you never know what's going to hit. I don't know. Just kind of took off. Some people say, well, it's because of Martin, but yeah, but there's been other videos with Martin on it and it didn't do anything. I'm just saying Martin helps, but for some reason, the timing with that sweet video, I don't know. It just took off. Somehow it got into that YouTube algorithm, and I don't know. It may happen again, may not. Who knows? But evidently, Sweet's not going to go by the wayside because people still remember them. I mean, that was the whole topic for the channel. Are they going to people going to remember the band Sweet? Or are they just going to be, the consensus of the panel was they're probably going to go by the wayside. But based on the views, maybe not.
Mhm.
Yeah. Hmm.
All right, I've got a few this or that questions. So
All
you
right,
can
go
either
ahead.
give me a quick one
Yeah,
word response or you
sure.
can explain your answer.
Okay.
Ready?
God, I hope so.
Hot,
Okay.
hot dogs or hamburgers?
Hmm. I'm going to go with hot dogs. Well, they're a lot easier to make. 30 seconds in the microwave and you're gone. You're ready to go.
Nice. What's your favorite topping on a hot dog?
Oh, I just ketchup and mustard. I'm very basic.
Simple hot dogs, I like it.
Hmm.
Would you rather have for your favorite
Hmm.
concert experience?
Hmm.
Would you rather have silent footage or the soundboard recording? Do you want to see your favorite concert experience, or do
I
you want
want
to
the
hear it?
soundboard recording. I want a good soundboard recording, high quality. That's what I want. I don't have to see it. I know what these guys look like already, but I want a good audio experience.
Nice,
That
good
might be
answer.
the audiophile part of me, even though I'm not really an audiophile, but I have audiophile tendencies. So I can get by without the video. Yeah.
Is it easier to replace the lead vocalist or the lead guitarist?
Lead guitarist. It depends because, like, look at Ronnie Montrose. I'm going to use that as an example. You've got that whole Montrose album. You've got the Sammy Hagar when he went out on tour. Essentially, back in the early days, was the Montrose band. You know, it sounded like Montrose. Ronnie Montrose doesn't have a particular guitar sound. He's very run of the mill. He could be anybody. And Sammy Hagar is also a very good guitar player, but he can. You don't need Ronnie Montrose. You just need Sammy Hagar playing guitar, and he can handle all the solos. Um, I don't know. I don't know what Ronnie Montrose did. Maybe write songs. Maybe that was his thing. But I think you got to have the lead singer is more important than the guitar player. And Sammy Hagar is a good example, I think, for that.
Which decade do you like better, 60s or 70s?
I think I'd like the 60s better
Ah,
because everything in the 60s was brand new. Everything based on everything that, the evolution, the Beatles forged the way for everything. Whether you like the Beatles or not, everything was fresh. And I think 1966, 1967 were probably the best years of music. Surrealistic Pillow, Who's Sellout, the Kinks. Well, that would be later. Let me think. What would be another example? God, there's so much great examples from the 60s because everything was brand new. They forged the trail. There's a lot of great 70s stuff too, but the creative aspect, there'll be nothing like the 1960s ever, you know? Everything now has just been a rehash of what's already been done. The only new music I think that's been done lately, whether you like it or not, is rap. There hasn't been anything new since, you know? I don't know. The 70s were just kind of like a refinement of what happened in the 60s.
well, there's a lot of hip hop that samples previous music. I know funk was
Well,
a big
yeah.
influence on
Well,
hip
we did
hop.
that
And
the Billy Squire episode. He's like the most sampled artist.
are you a funk
The
fan?
Big Beat and The Stroke were two of the most highly sampled songs in hip hop.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Mhm.
Are you a fan of funk? Funkadelic,
I
Parliament?
love funk. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Right on.
Yeah.
Bootsy
We did a funk
Collins.
episode on my channel. Yeah, I love all of it.
Very cool.
Hmm.
Okay, you have to erase one from history.
Okay.
The Beatles' White Album or Beach
Hmm.
Boys' Pet Sounds?
Wow. Oh. Well, I'm gonna say the beat. Okay, you're gonna put it that way. I'd say the Beatles' White Album because Pet Sounds is way more important than the White Album. Because without Pet Sounds, you wouldn't have Sergeant Pepper.
So what would you say then, Pet Sounds or Sgt. Pepper, if you had to get rid of one?
I
Like
would say Sergeant Pet.
What's a Beatles album you'd put up against Pet Sounds?
Well, Rubber Soul or Revolver or Sergeant Pepper. I would, but Pet Sounds had a large. It wasn't so successful with the record buying public, but the musicians it had a big influence with. Pete Townsend like Pet Sounds, Paul McCartney. You wouldn't have anything on Pepper without Pet Sounds. It's that influential. So I think you have to have that. And if you look at Rolling Stone 500 top albums, Pet Sounds usually like at number two. I don't know what it is lately, but it was up there, you know. It influenced a lot of people
Who
for
had
what
the
they were doing.
best?
No one, what? Go
Sorry,
ahead. No, that's right.
who had the best solo career after the Beatles?
Paul McCartney, no doubt. I mean, John Lennon didn't do much. He mostly baked bread and raised Sean for those 5 years before he was assassinated. But I would say Paul definitely, because Paul McCartney was a workaholic. All he's ever done was produce music. It would be Paul McCartney. That's my final answer.
Are you a fan of ELO?
Yeah, I love Yellow.
You're a big fan. Have you
Yeah.
heard? I heard that their philosophy in the early days was they wanted to
Mhm.
continue on what the Beatles kind of where they
Uh-huh.
left off.
Yeah, like from where they left off from I Am the Walrus. Continue on from there.
Do you feel like they accomplished
I
that?
I think they did.
Wow.
Because the Beatles kind of abandoned all that. They stripped back down and did the White Album. Well, ELO kind of picked up that torch and just. But think about 1968. You've got, Bob Dylan is stripping back down. What came out in 68? Was that um, Nashville Skyline? There were a lot of the band came out. So all that kind of, I don't want to say progressive. You can look at psychedelic music as being progressive. I think it's probably where progressive music started was from the Beatles and all that psychedelia. I think that's where all prog came from. But I think ELO carried that torch. They kind of picked up from right where I'm the Walrus, left off to some degree. But I get it. Yeah.
Do you like a great band biopic or documentary? So biopic being like
No, a
Bohemian Rhapsody.
documentary. No, I think that was horrible because they got a lot of it wrong. I mean, it's fun for the casual fan, but for a hardcore fan, you want a documentary, I
You
think.
want for a hardcore fan, you want like that Beatles documentary, right? The one with all that footage that came out. Like I'd love to any
Yeah,
one of my
the
favorite bands. I'd love to see on
Get
like
Back
bulk
documentary
footage.
was great.
Yeah, absolutely.
hmm That's what I
Last
like. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. Finish your thought. I want to hear
No,
what you think
that's
about
my
Get Back.
thought. I thought Get Back was great. I wish Peter Jackson could have got the chance to release all 10 hours of it instead of. I thought maybe when they released the DVD and the CD, we'd get the whole thing. And we still might. But I think, I'm not sure how well it sold. But depending on how it sold, I think Disney and why they have to do this with Disney, I don't know. Wouldn't you think? I would think that Apple would be able to put it out by themselves, but whatever. What do I know? I'm not involved. But I would like to see the whole cut, the director's cut, which is 10 hours long. I would like to see that. Maybe someday that'll come out.
See, I liked Get Back,
Mm-hmm.
and I watched most of it. I don't think I watched all of it, but I found that like my wife, she's a Beatles fan. She's a
Mm-hmm.
cat like a music fan, but more casual. She doesn't collect albums and stuff. She
Mm-hmm.
likes hits and stuff like this. Um,
Well, no, well, yeah, I get it.
she seemed to lose interest by the end of the first part. So for
Not
more
me.
of a
It's like me injecting heroin, and I've never done heroin, but I felt like it was like shooting heroin when I was watching it. But it
Did you get
depends
it
on
on
how big
DVD?
of a. I just got it on. I didn't get the Blu-ray. I just got the DVD of it, which is fine. I don't need the Blu-ray. Which you think I'd want the Blu-ray, but I couldn't find it really, and it was expensive. I'm going, shit. I'm not paying that much for that. I'll buy the DVD of it. So, but yeah, it was like shooting heroin. But it depends upon your level of fandom.
Well, I find stuff like that fascinating, even if it was a band that I'm not hardcore interested in, but I'm kind of sort of interested in. I would find
Mhm.
that type of footage fascinating, even
Yeah,
for bands
well,
I'm not as big a
yeah.
fan of.
But it was well done. I mean, holy crap. The
And the
fact that
footage looked
and it
incredible.
was shot on 16 millimeter.
It looked amazing.
hmm
And it
I,
was really
I,
cool. Historically, it was cool seeing a lot of that footage too, seeing them
uh,
jam stuff
in the
out.
theater, I went and saw because they had that screening of like the rooftop session. I went and saw that at the theater. They only like showed it like 1 day or 2 days. And to see that 16 millimeter footage blown up, it was absolutely beautiful. I couldn't believe how well it's a miracle with modern day technology, what they could do with 16 millimeter. And it looked beautiful. But yeah, I even went to the Get Back rooftop showing that they did. I don't know, when was that in? God, how long ago was that? Like several months ago. Probably, God. My concept of time, Marco's a mess. Probably was 8 months ago, maybe. I don't know.
Okay, I've got two more quick questions for you, and
All
we'll
right,
wrap
go
up.
ahead.
The Beatles are
Oh God, here we go.
they're all in, like, the Beatles are in the Hot Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and
Right.
all of them are in the Hall of Fame for their solo careers. Do you think Ringo deserved to be in the Hall of Fame for his solo career?
Of course. Don't forget, in the 70s, he sold a lot of records. He was right up there. He was selling more records than he was right under Paul McCartney, probably, in sales. Ringo was always very popular as a Beatle. So I think definitely he needs to be in there. I mean, it
And
was all four of them that contributed to that. So I think, and his solo stuff's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
last question, and then we'll wrap up.
Okay. All right.
Now, a lot of the guys have kind of gone on and done other stuff. Like Martin writes books, and Tim put out the 8-track book, and I worked on a documentary. Do you have any projects that you want to work on that are kind of floating around your brain right now, outside of the YouTube channel?
I'm not at that level. Yeah, my Hot Wheel restoration book. I'll give everybody all the tips on how to restore Hot Wheels. No, not really. Yeah, the YouTube channel. That's it. Build my empire that way. Because I still have so many topics. Like I told you, Mark, I'm book crap clear to the end of January. There's so much. All I do is go to work on content, book people, and produce content. It's all I do all the time. It's all I do, except for right now. It's kind of like a break. And I'm talking to you.
And
But
we appreciate
yeah,
you being here.
I'm like addicted to it. I can't stop.
Any
There's so
final
much,
thoughts?
there's so much great stuff coming up though. Oh my God. But I did book, we are doing a Vandenberg episode with Tim Durling and Martin in January, and that's going to be great.
Very
Well,
cool.
Tim Durling said, Grant, you ought to check out Vandenberg. You might like Vandenberg. And I went, all right. So I picked up some Vandenberg, and I'm actually pretty surprised how good it is. I don't even consider them really metal. You'd think they were like considered a metal band, but they don't seem all that metal to me. I don't know. That's going on another tangent. But yes, the Hot Wheels book. I'll do a Hot Wheels book.
Very cool. And where can we find you? And what's the name of your channel again?
Grant's Rock Warehouse on YouTube, and I have a Facebook page, and I just started up my Twitter page. I already had a Twitter page, but I never really used it for anything. So I pump out content on there, and I'll stream live on there, and it's all there. Everything you want to know.
You got any shows coming up?
Yeah, how many you want to know about?
Just whatever's coming up that we should know about.
Oh, there's I'm doing another obscure CD or album show with my friend Tom. That's coming up. We're doing one of the series is This Is Power Pop, and we're doing the first Plimsouls album this week. That's coming up. I only go by week. There's a whole bunch already planned, and there are ongoing series too. Todd Evans and I are doing the Matthew Sweet series that we've been doing since the beginning of my channel. We're still working on that. We're doing a Cheap Trick series. Ryan Gavalier and I are doing Cheap Trick. We're still working through that. Davy and I have a channel, a show called This Is Shite, but we haven't. It reminds me, Marco, we haven't booked the next one for that. That one's funny because we look at records that are just absolute. We think that are absolute just crap, and just rip on them. That's what that show's about. And having Davy Gallagher on that's just the perfect co-host, because who better than Davy to rip on something?
Yeah.
What else? I don't know. There's so much, like I said, December's all booked, January's getting booked. And at this point in my career, my short YouTube career of 7 months, I don't have to really come up with stuff because a lot of stuff will just develop during a show, or all these fine individuals that come on with me, they have ideas too. Let's do this. And I'll go, all right, let's do it. So a lot of this stuff at this point, I don't even have to come up with anything, which I still do, but a lot of it, I'm just letting it kind of grow naturally, with topics. So I don't know. It's fun though. I'll damn near talk about anything at this point.
Well,
But the thing is, I do want to add with this channel is that I've heard a lot of bands or artists that I probably wouldn't have heard before.
Yeah.
And a good example is that Aerosmith series. Even though there was a lot of talking, a lot of people on the Aerosmith series on Ryan's channel, I thought that whole later Aerosmith period was just horrible. I never paid any attention to it. But by doing that series and going through the catalog, it just, man, there's a lot of great stuff on that later period. They were one of those bands that handled the 80s really well. Where Heart was very commercial, Cheap Trick was pumping out trash, but my God, Aerosmith handled it with grace and great stuff. You might like the 70s stuff better, but that 80s stuff, for anybody that thinks that 80s Aerosmith stuff is just, like they jumped the shark. You need to re-listen to it because there's a lot of good stuff, and that totally opened me up. So by doing these shows and having my own channel, it has opened me up to a lot of stuff. So it's fun. Every day is an adventure, There you go.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've discovered quite a few bands through the channel.
Yeah.
And I have such a larger appreciation for music in general since I've worked on the show.
Because I'm not sure. I know we're doing Vandenberg in January, but I can't remember how that germinated. It wasn't me bringing it up.
It came from Tim.
It came from
For
Tim.
sure
He said,
it did.
"Oh my God, you love Vandenberg." I said, "Well, let's do an episode." And he said, "All right." Who else we got? Well, let's get Mark. So,
he planted.
But I've been doing a lot of stuff with Tim lately. A lot of shows with Tim.
Tim's amazing. His knowledge is incredible.
And that show we did the other night with, we looked at The Darkness with Michael, and Tim actually came on. That was probably one of my favorite shows I've ever done.
That was a lot of fun. I was watching that.
Now that was one of that's how I want my shows to be.
I don't know anything about The Darkness, and I enjoyed watching it.
But that's how I want it to be. When I started the channel, that's how I envisioned it would be, like that type of discussion. That was a great show. God, that was perfect. But, it's a process, as you keep doing these shows, you get better at it, whether I'm getting better at it or not. But, you have some shows don't turn out like you want them to, and some of them do. But you may not think that they turn out well, but if someone watching it might think, oh my God, that was a great show. You never know. Like that Sweet Show. I never thought it would get to 6,000 views. None of my shows get up that high. It just took off for some reason. I don't know.
It surprises you when you have a show that you're not suspecting do really well. It kind of surprises you.
But
our biggest show was Wendy O. Williams. That came out of left field.
And that's the same kind of thing.
That's like 12,000 views or something, 11,000.
But that Sweet Show, all the numbers came from over in the UK.
Oh, yeah. You can look at stuff like that, which is interesting too.
That show just took off over there. Wasn't here where they're going to be forgotten. But boy, oh boy, not in the UK. It made a big splash. And there's going to be I just want to add, there's going to be a Slade show in the future too.
Very cool.
And of course, Slade was huge over there.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that may take off because no one's talking about Slade in the United States.
Oh, we got to do something with the bring back the Christmas battles, because they had they battled the Wizard and Slade battled that one Christmas for the biggest single. Slade had Merry Xmas everyone, and Wizard
Mm-hmm.
had I Wish It Could Be Christmas every day. So
And
they had a
Wizard
bit of
stuff's
a
great.
friendly rivalry going on there, though. It would be cool to talk
I'm
about
glad
that
you.
somehow.
I'm glad you mentioned Wizard because no one's talking Roy Wood, no one's talking the move,
Oh, if you
no
want to
one's
talk about
talking.
the move or Roy Wood, I'll come on anytime. I know
Well,
all of those albums start to
all
finish.
right, there you're my
His
man.
solo stuff, the move, some yellow
I'll
stuff,
be in contact. That's what
uh,
we'll do. Seriously, in
Wizard,
January.
love that. I had all that stuff.
Well, why don't we?
I had
We
Roy Wood
should look at
boulders
the
on eight
move
track.
first and do like a mini series. Maybe like cover the move, cover like Roy Wood solo. Just have a general
I would love
discussion.
to do that. I'd
All
love to
right,
do
well,
that.
there you go. See, and this is exactly how shows come up, just through this, like this. But yeah, the Roy Wood, oh my God, Mustard, what a great record. All
Love
those
that
Roy Wood
stuff.
out, and no one talks about Roy.
No,
And Roy need, but like in the UK,
great
Roy still
songwriter.
tours regularly over there.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, I wish he'd come over here, but he doesn't.
he doesn't come over here.
And he plays Christmas every year. That's his
Hmm.
big thing. It's
Hmm.
Christmas. Whenever Christmas comes around, Roy Wood comes out.
So there you go, Marco. We're gonna do a Roy Wood move mini series.
All right, end of January, February, it looks like.
Yeah, that's where I'm booking. See, there's another show in the can.
All right, very cool, Grant. Thanks for joining us today.
Of
And
course.
anybody who wants to check out Grant's channel, that's Grant's Rock Warehouse again. The link will be in the description. It's spelled Warehaus.
But you can search it either way and it still comes up.
Very cool.
Doesn't matter. You
The
can,
link will be in the sorry.
okay, you're good.
It'll work either way, either spelling. Somebody like me, I can't spell, so that works out
Right.
for me.
People always
And
say, why did you do that Haus? I said, what the hell? Why not? It's the German spelling of house. I don't know. Why not?
well, we'll make it real easy for you, and we'll put the link right in the description so you can
There you
find it
go.
really easy. And go check out Grant's station. Grant's putting this content up for free, and he's talking about a lot of cool bands that a lot of people aren't. So he's shining a spotlight on a lot of folks that don't normally get the spotlight. And the least we can do is go over there and give them a like and subscribe. I
Of
think
course.
Grant would
Yes.
appreciate that, and all the
I would
bands
love
that
that.
Grant talks about.
Hmm.
Any
Cool.
final
Yeah.
thoughts before we sign off?
No, I appreciate you having me on. I always love just shooting the shit with you, Marco, and we will do the Roy Wood move series, mini series. So be ready.
I'm looking
But
forward to
no,
it, and we'll catch it on Grant's Rock Warehouse.
that's right. All right, cool.
All right, thanks, Grant.
Hey, man, thanks. I appreciate it.
All right.